we're live. Okay.
Nolan likes to keep me on my toes. Welcome to the Freeborn Podcast again. We're here with Missy Angulo. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I'm glad you came in. We were just talking about how the almost everyone who comes to the podcast says that our little setup here looks a lot smaller than it does on TV.
Well, maybe it's because my size and proportion is, it's normal to me.
Well, you were saying that on TV you thought that was my real yacht.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Objects in the camera are smaller than they appear. And I should put that disclaimer on all the podcasts, because there's going to be people who think I have a real yacht sitting in the background of my podcast.
Whatever you think, it's much smaller than you think.
Yes. See, this is Timothy Romero gave me this.
That's cool.
That's cool, right? It's my first gift to the podcast. So I put it right there. Right there. So now we gave a little shout out to Timothy. He didn't make it. He just bought it for $1 at the Dollar General. So how have you been?
I am well, doing great.
Yeah?
It's an interesting time. Got 4 kids. They're trying to study from home, but we're doing it.
Are they going to public school, or are you doing homeschool? What are you doing?
We're going live into here, but we're not streaming on any of the things.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm on the YouTube right now.
Okay. Let's see.
Pause.
Well, I'm reloading it now.
Look, it's live over there.
Oh, there it is. There it is there.
Is it on YouTube?
Okay, now we're good. We're good.
All right.
Yeah, now
So were we live at the beginning, or do we leave?
Yes, I believe we were. It's just
Okay.
didn't update. It wasn't
Okay.
like that before.
Yay.
Anyway, so are they public school, or are they homeschooling, or what are you doing?
Micah just entered middle school, and we had always decided that from the very beginning that he was going to be homeschooled as soon as he hit middle school. So he just started his first week of homeschool middle school.
Wow.
And we're having fun with that. Jason he's been planning this for a couple of years now, so he's all over it. And I have all these ideas too, and I'm like trying to give him my ideas. He's like, no, I got this. So
Wow. So what do you mean by he's all over? Like, what's he doing?
He has some ideas. The strategy, I guess I'll just go with the strategy, because is to give them tools for anything beyond high school. So basically, he wants to give his and my idea is, our goal as parents is to help them be the best that they can be by the time they're adults. So
Okay.
whatever that means. So for Jason, it's he wants them to know how to handle money, and to be
that's
able
good.
to handle understanding how to make money and how to why it's important. So that's where we're at right now, is we're teaching. Mike is learning. So our goal right now is to, by the time he's done with middle school, is to be able to make money and handle it properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that when he goes into high school, he can find an avenue, or he can find his career that he wants to get into, and know why he's doing that. Like,
Right.
not, have more of a focus than just, like, follow your passion.
Right.
We want him to have an idea of why you make money. Like, why, what's a job for? Like, it's not just,
Hold on a second.
am I too far away?
No, you just need to get it in front of you, because you have it like under your chin. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hello.
you're good. Yeah, you're
Okay.
fine. Yeah, just keep it like in front. You had it down here like this.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so,
Yeah. So to make money, and so that's.
so we're starting there.
But are you doing like normal school also, or just
Yes.
that?
So that's for now. It's
So that
just,
would be like his elective type class,
yes,
or what? Okay.
Yes. But Jason, he's because he wants to get on it and get him started on it very quickly. And Jason's schedule is kind of sporadic. We're never really, so he does it whenever he can. So a lot of times my schedule gets kind of pushed to the side, and Jason does his thing. So it works out really good, because Mike is homeschooled, so we can pretty much do however we feel like it. And so I do have a curriculum for him. I've picked up some science and history and math and stuff for him to do, but he hasn't really gotten much of that right now. We're just focusing on, which is fine. It's only been the first week.
Okay.
But we're having a lot of fun with it. And we've discovered that Micah's got a music talent. He's very talented in that way. So
Really?
my neighbor across the street is a piano teacher.
Oh.
So we got him into piano, and
Is he liking that?
he loves it.
Yes.
He won't start his piano lessons for another week or two, but yes, we got a keyboard, and he's going to town with that.
Oh, wow. And so, like, can he play anything yet?
Oh yeah, and he just picked up from YouTube.
Really?
He picked up YouTube videos and just started. He taught himself on YouTube.
So what can he play?
Right now, he can play. He started learning the Amazing Grace song, but I don't know. It's not the normal one.
Right, the more modern version
The
of
modern version of
Okay.
Amazing Grace.
The one, isn't it Jeremy Camp or the one with the chorus now?
I don't know.
My chains are gone.
Yes,
I've been set
yes,
free.
that's the
yeah,
one.
they added
That's
the chorus
Chris
to.
Tomlin.
Chris Tomlin.
Is that
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, he can play that one a little bit.
Okay.
And he's got some friends that are into some like different kind of music. I've never heard it before. It's called what's it called? The coffin dance. I don't know. It's a weird ditty. It's really cool. Like whenever he plays it, it sounds really cool. I looked it up. It was composed by a Russian guy. It's a Russian composer, but it's gotten real popular on YouTube. Like they do these dances with it. Anyway, but yeah, he learned how to play that. And it started because I learned piano when I was about 16.
Okay.
And I'd always wanted the kids to start getting into a little bit. And so finally we got a keyboard like right before COVID. And I sat down and started showing the kids that the few things that I could play. I couldn't play a whole lot, but I had learned. The one was Furalisa, which is from
Beethoven.
And so I played that, and Micah just ate it up. Within a week or two, he was playing it almost as good as I was.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, he's already passed me up, pretty much. Like, he plays by ear, he picks it out.
Wow. Very good.
So we're doing that with him.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Well, he should get good enough to play at church.
That's what I told him.
And
he's all excited about it.
But he has to be extremely good to play at church.
To meet the level.
We can't have.
Mediocre.
No. It would bring us all down.
Exactly.
Actually, if you can play chopsticks, you're good enough to play at our church. You're good enough.
But yeah, so that's been fun.
And so you're not doing any type of organized homeschool curriculum?
Not at the moment.
Like a Becca or whatever ones.
Oh, no, we don't plan on doing anything organized. Nothing, like we're not going to get a system. I won't have any answer keys. We'll probably have to make our own tests, which is fine.
So how does that work then with the state? Does the state recognize that type of homeschooling, or how does that work?
It's legal. You can do it.
It's legal.
That's all that matters.
That's real comforting. It's legal. You're legal, son.
The only issue you may run into is high school. When he goes into high school, they may not. If I don't keep really good grades for him, like he made an A in this, he passed these grades. If I don't keep a good grading system, when I present him to high school, they'll say, why? Like he didn't pass middle school. Like, so if he ever wants to go back to public school, they may question his grades or even his academic progress. But as far as whether or not like the state will allow me to do that, yes. Like I'm not breaking any laws. I just have to make sure that I let the school district know that he is homeschooled. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple guidelines like he has to learn good citizenship and
Really?
the basics.
What's that? Do they have any type of like a thing that you have to teach? So what is that?
There's no 1, 2, 3 or teach these steps. It's just basically good citizenship. And I know I know them because they're in the public school. Like they send home these like good citizenship papers, and the kids get
When
nominated.
did this start? I've never heard of this.
No, I don't know when it started.
Never.
All I know is that.
So what are they teaching in public school? What are they teaching as good citizenship?
Synergize, so like working together, think before you do, thinking before you do something, and there's like 7 steps. There's like 7 of them. They're called the pillars of character.
Really? In public school? Mm-hmm. I have never heard of this.
Yeah, this is the pillars of character.
Why didn't you take this? This could have done you some good.
I don't think I was there for that day. Whenever they taught that, I wasn't around.
So there's all these, and they don't, like, homeschoolers don't have to, like, follow any curriculum for this. It's just a matter of, like, look, these are the things your kids should know by the time. I'm like, duh. they're normal things.
But well, the reason I'm curious about that is I'm wondering if they are doing a lot of the social justice stuff in that.
I wouldn't know. That's a good question, though.
Because that sounds to me, when I hear that, and I mean, we are in Texas, so I don't know, but when I hear that, it sounds to me like code for social justice, and they're going to tell kids basically Black Lives Matters and those not there's these movements, these mantras.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And socialism and LGBTQ and all of that.
Right.
It just sounds to me like that's just a dog whistle for that.
So I do hear that concern, and we have thought about that. But for our kids, because they have such a strong groundwork at home, we both keep a very open dialogue going on with the kids. It's a constant, what are you learning at school? And it's always a sounding board. The kids, and so far, like they'll come to us and they'll say that their friends, they'll be sounding boards for the liberal kind of agenda and Trump is bad and all this stuff. And Micah's been, because he has, obviously we're not liberals, so he comes home and he's like, Mom, and we're just teaching him how to, like, don't instigate, just be, be kind, a lot of people are going to disagree with you, but I don't know how much of that is part of the, if they're getting it from the curriculum or if they're getting that from home. And it sounds, I don't know where they're getting it from, but a lot of their friends, most of them, actually, I would say like 95 easily, maybe more of their friends and kids at school are more on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Micah's a minority. In 5th grade,
that is interesting.
He was a minority.
So I wonder if that is coming from their homes or if that's coming from the school itself. Because I know that, I suspect, I don't say I know because I don't know his school, but just nationally, teachers are predominantly liberal. Liberal is not the right word anymore. They're leftist.
Left.
Yeah. They're predominantly leftist.
Yeah.
And it's very acceptable in any type of social circle to be anti-Trump, and it's very unacceptable to be pro-Trump, right? So you're going to find people who probably aren't really leftists find it easier just to go along with that because it's so penalized to have a diverse opinion on whether it be Trump or Black Lives Matter, the movement, or any of these other leftist issues.
Yeah.
It's a lot less penalized to be pro.
And that's another strategy that Jason and I took on early on when they first started school was you're always going to be different. All of your friends are going to be going one way and you are going to go the other, and just get used to that. And so we preach that hard for the very beginning. Just get used to being different. You will never be like your friends. And that was one of the reasons why we chose to go public school, because we wanted them to not be shocked when they got into middle school or high school or older, be like, what? My friends have, this and that.
And so how do they handle it?
Well, yeah, they handle it just fine, I remember we laughed because Micah came home, or was it Brooke or Micah, came home from like 2nd grade, 3rd grade. And I remember him saying something like, Mom, all of my friends, when they want something, they just tell their parents. I'm like, oh, that's fun.
That's fun.
He was shocked. They just tell their parents what they want, and they get it. I'm like,
No, what's fun is when you try it. That's what's fun. Then it gets fun.
Oh yeah, that was funny. We had a good laugh about that one. We talked about that for a little bit. Let's talk about that. Always makes for a good dialogue right there.
Good dialogue. That's very interesting. Well, I didn't know that. So
now the other 3 are in public school.
They're still in public school. And so what is the plan for high school?
That's going to be, as of right now, our plan is to let them pick.
Okay.
So we're going to spend the 3 years kind of like preparing them for high school, like giving them tools and ideas. They're going to have an opportunity to explore career options, like what their interests are. And then by the time they get into high school, they can kind of pick an avenue if they want to continue homeschooling. If they perform really well and they really learn a lot homeschooling and they don't want to go back to the public school system, that's going to be their choice. But if, say, like he picks something that's very there's already a lot of good programs available and through the high school system, and he can get college courses knocked out of the way by the time he graduates. If that's his course of, if that's where he'd prefer to go, then that's going to be available to him as well.
Okay. And so what is he interested in right now?
At the moment, he has lots of interest, but earlier when we first started exploring the homeschooling idea, he told us he was interested in meteorology. So I spent the summer getting books from the library on meteorology, on weather, on just different things, just to see if we're not pushing it. It's just like, look, there's a book.
Right.
If you want to read it, that's up to you.
And just the Weather Channel's always on.
Yeah. Weather
We're not
Channel.
pushing it, but we just subscribe to the Weather Channel 24/7.
Michael, watch this video.
And so how are the other ones doing in public school at this time with all this? Are they going to school? Are they at home? How are they doing that?
So right now it's forced distance learning. We didn't give a choice. They didn't give us a choice. For the first 2 weeks, supposedly, and hopefully we'll be able to go back after Labor Day. I got an email from the superintendent. I haven't read it yet. I need to read that, but before Monday at least. But yes, so as far as I know, as of right now, they should be going back to school in person on Tuesday, I guess, after Labor Day.
Okay.
And that will be supposedly what I've heard from people on the inside is that it's not going to look anything like normal school. They're going to be at their desks all day. They take their lunch at their desk. They do everything at their desk. And as horrible as it sounds, we still chose to do in-person school, mainly, for mainly the reasons that the kids get to see their friends.
Yeah.
Get to socialize a little bit, even if it's, hello.
Right.
But also
Don't you think that's going to be like herding cats, though?
What?
Well,
I don't understand.
You understand you ever heard that, herd cats? Mm-mm. Can you imagine what that would be like if you were trying to herd cats?
Oh, herd. I heard hurt.
No, not herd.
I was like,
You're like, what kind of podcast is this? Herding.
Okay, gotcha. Yes.
It's going to be like herding
yes, it is
cats.
I have a friend who works in the school district, and she told me, she's like, you feel so bad for these kids. She hasn't said it's gotten chaotic yet, so I don't know, but they only have like a handful of kids because I guess these are the kids that are their parents work for the school. So the parents have nowhere else. Like, they have to come with the parent.
Right.
So I think those are the kids. I'm not sure exactly, but she said it's so sad. Like, you're watching these kids and they're so bored. But yeah. So we'll see. We're always, the good thing is that ever since we've had kids, I've always been prepared to homeschool.
Oh,
I've
really?
always been prepared. I
Were
always
you
have an
homeschooled?
arse. I was.
Really?
I was homeschooled.
From what age? Did you ever go to public school?
Yes, I was so all in Mexico. I was public school.
Okay.
And I was in Mexico till I was in 3rd grade, and then in Poland I redid 3rd grade and then did 4th grade in Poland.
Why did you redo 3rd grade? Were you that bad?
Maybe I was. I think it had to do with the fact that we had just started 3rd grade. I just remember that I was in 3rd grade in Mexico because it was fall when we moved to Poland. So maybe I didn't redo it. I just went back into. I felt like we did 3rd. I was like, I think I did this already.
You're like deja vu.
Maybe that was more of the fact that because we moved to Poland in September.
Okay.
I think by the time I got enrolled into school, it was October.
So you were in public school in in Mexico, and then public school in Poland till when?
In Poland till I was, 4th grade. So I was 2 years after we moved there, so 97.
Oh, so you started homeschooling then after 4th grade?
Yes. So I homeschooled all through 6th through 12th because for some reason, my parents skipped 5th grade. I never did 5th grade.
There is just all kinds of shenanigans. Was that legal? I wonder. Is that legal? That's the question.
No. All I remember is that I did 3rd grade and 4th grade in Poland. I was the child. I don't know. My parents were in control of things. I blamed them.
I'm the last person, I guess, that should be criticizing schooling, right? See, I've been a principal of a homeschool, and the teacher, and the student.
I was wondering where this was going because I was like, I know y'all didn't homeschool your kids.
I did. I was the principal, I was the teacher, and I was the student. And I expelled myself. I flunked myself, and I expelled myself.
You are no longer welcome
Yeah,
here.
you're never to return.
Did you post your picture of the entryway so
that's right.
security would never let you in again?
I was security also. Yeah. So, okay, so you skipped 5th grade.
Apparently, it's what I remember.
Boy, this is not looking promising for you kids. Okay, so you homeschooled from 6 to 12, and how did that go for you? What did you do? I'm sure. Did your parents do like a Becca or one of the which one?
It was Christian Liberty Academy.
Yes, that's the one I did. Yeah, I thought they had burned the place down after me. No, they're still there. Okay.
No,
Because
I loved it. I thrived in homeschooling. It didn't bother me at all.
You didn't wish you were back in public school?
I liked public school, but I was a good student.
Oh, I'm sure.
I loved learning, and I liked getting good grades. And as the language got harder in fourth grade, I started. My mom said she remembers. This is what she remembers, and she told me that she remembers that my attitude towards school changed, and I didn't enjoy it because up till then I was always excited about school. I enjoyed school, but then as the language got harder, I just had lost an interest, and my grades were falling, and so that's when they pulled me out and put me into homeschool.
We got a message from your parents. Just
Uh-oh.
They thought it was important enough to send it to me directly.
Oh goodness!
To you directly?
To me directly.
Uh-oh, here we go.
You did not skip 5th grade.
Okay.
Then someone needs to fill in that gap in my memory because there is a huge memory gap.
It's like, okay, sure.
Because I know when I started homeschooling, I was like, why am I writing 6th grade on my paper? But whatever.
Okay, there. They didn't want to put that on public because they didn't want everyone to know they're lying. So you were having a hard time with Polish?
Not Polish like the level of being able to communicate with friends and doing like everyday things. It was the studying of like being able to read a textbook, because there were so many aspects of the language that were just hard. I could pick up regular conversation, but it was just the reading.
Technical language was harder.
More technical language, more and then it was just a lot, and the Polish level of they require a much higher, how do I put this? They have a higher standard. That's what
Okay.
much higher standard. So their standard for education is very high, and we didn't have that standard.
Well, no, you skipped 5th grade.
So I was, and of course I'm like, look, I enjoy school, but I don't want to live it. I don't want to go home and spend 5 hours, trying to figure out what this one chapter is saying and then answer 15 questions. Like that's how long it would take us, because we would literally have to do our homework with like a dictionary in front of us, and it would take us all day. And my dad my parents would take the time to help us out, but it was just very, very time consuming.
Right. And so who was better at Polish of your siblings, you and your siblings?
Linda got really good at it really fast. But she was also very social. She
was younger too.
She was only 7 when we moved there.
Yeah, well that's as much of a difference as anything.
She started in 1st grade in public school.
Okay.
And she went all the way through 4th. And I think she skipped 5th grade too, by the way, Mom.
You're gonna get more messages. You better message him right away.
I'll have to ask Linda now. Now I'm gonna have to ask Linda.
Yeah. See, now we've started a whole little thing there with this family. And so what about your brother? Was he in public school or not?
He went for 1 year.
Okay.
And he went straight into, I want to say 5th grade. He was to 5th grade.
So he actually did do 5th grade.
He did 5th grade, and
well, good for him.
It was hard. He got 5th grade. Yes.
And it was hard for him.
It was very hard because he started and they threw him right in fifth grade. The curriculum for fifth grade is preparing for, I think they have a big test at the end of fifth grade. And so they're like throwing stuff at him. And Russian was part of the curriculum. So he was not only learning Polish, but now they had him learning Russian.
Wow.
And he was like, this is too much. Like just.
Did he learn any Russian?
Maybe.
Not a little bit, not.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have learned a couple things, but it wasn't important. My parents basically, that was what was a great thing about my parents was that they when they put us into public school, they told us, you're here to learn the language so that we can integrate. Like we're
They were looking at it as your language school.
Yes, this is your language school. We just need you to learn the language and be able to make friends and be able to communicate with people if it gets hard. This is not, they didn't want us to feel like, we were trapped in this life that we didn't choose.
Okay.
So it was, so we always had like this look, homeschooling is an option. Don't freak out. It was, so that was a good thing because, it was an exciting adventure, but yeah, it's like, what are we going to do if it doesn't work out or
Right.
if it gets too hard?
Right. And so then you all started homeschooling at the same time? No, Linda kept going to school.
Mm-hmm.
You and your brother started homeschooling.
Excuse me.
You're
I
right.
went to public school for 2 years. Josh
Okay.
went for 1 year.
Okay. So he
So-
started 1st, and then you.
Yes.
And
And then
then-
Linda kept going for a couple more years.
Okay.
And then they pulled her out too.
And why
And
did
she-
they?
she
And why
did
did
not
they
like it.
take her out?
Because they wanted her to. I think I'm gonna.
Your
the way
guess.
I remember.
They'll set the record straight.
They'll
apparently.
they'll correct me, but the way I remember, and I could be wrong, was that they wanted her to learn American history.
Okay.
They wanted her to learn American grammar because Polish grammar is different, and they knew
Right.
that our future was 90% going to be back in the United States.
Right.
Like we weren't gonna grow up and then stay in Poland. Like more than likely. No, yeah, my brother ended up going back to Poland, but for they wanted us to let us know that look, this is mine and your mom's life.
Mm-hmm.
This is not you're not bound to this.
Right.
The United States is open to you. You can go back, and they wanted us to be able to have an understanding of American culture, American history, so that we could go back and have a little bit of connection. Not sure, but yeah.
And do you think that worked? Do you think that was important? Do you think that worked? Do you think?
Yeah,
Because I've because like I said, I was I did homeschooling and then my sisters, some of them did and some didn't, and I don't know. I understand the thinking of it is like that way they can integrate into the U.S. I'm not sure that it ever actually turns out to be that necessary.
So integrating into the United States was very interesting for me.
Really?
Very.
How so?
Because we only came back. At first, our first trip back was 5 years after we'd moved to Poland. It was a long time. So we went to Poland in '95. Our first trip back was in 2000. 5 years. By the time I came back, I barely knew my cousins. I barely knew our church. I didn't know. And then after that, it was every 2 years. So after that, the church was like, Oak Knoll said, no more 5-year stuff. We're going to do every 2 years at the very minute.
And why do you think it was 5 years? Do you know why?
It was expensive. I think, and then it was. I think it was also the fact that trying to just get some roots, get something started. Because otherwise, if every going back and forth, you feel like you have to put everything on hold and go back and because if you come back to the States, it's not like you can't just take a week or two. You're going to do it for 2 months.
Yeah.
And back then when we first started coming back to the States, we were coming back for 6 months to make it worth our while.
Right.
And not only were we coming to San Antonio, we were going to Mexico, and we were going up north. We were visiting all these other churches that were supporting us. We were staying with my grandma in Oklahoma for a whole month. And then, it was just, we were all over the place. And it was
Right.
6 months of our time.
Yeah, it was more like a traditional furlough.
Yes.
Which
and
is how most missionaries actually do it.
Yes.
That's
right.
more common.
But
even
the
when
5
they go to
years
Mexico.
was a lot. And
That
so
is
by
a
the
lot.
time I got to,
So you went to Poland at what age?
I was 9.
9. So you came back at 14. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then I didn't come back until I was 16 after. So the 14, 16, and then when I was an adult.
So you only made 2 trips back until you moved back.
Basically, yes.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so, yeah, see, like Betsy, my sister, my youngest sister, like, I should say Liz. She likes to be called Liz. I only call her that on camera. Anyways, I think she went to, she was in Mexican public school her whole life. I don't think she ever homeschooled. Pretty sure she didn't.
Linda would have liked that.
And then Wendy, the oldest sister, she homeschooled. And I don't actually see in their life, they could tell me if they think, but I don't see any distinction between their ability to get into college or get a job or anything.
Okay.
In other words, I don't see that. I always thought the same way. It's like when I was living there, I thought, well, maybe when my kids, if we're still there, we'll put them in homeschool so that they can get into college easier. I don't see that it makes any distinction, any difference whatsoever.
Okay, so for us, I don't think that was, I think it was more of like a cultural thing, not for college. Like,
Your mom says it was for college purposes.
okay, there you go. It was for college purposes.
Yeah.
It may have made a little bit of a difference. I think maybe
Did
the one
any of
reason
you go
why
to college?
I started college.
You
I went-
did?
I went- yes, I got to within like 20 hours of my associate's degree.
And why haven't you finished?
I got married and had a baby.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
Micah
need to
kinda-
finish.
I told Jason, I was like, maybe one day I'll finish. I'll get my associate's.
You need to. You can do it online now.
I can, yes. It's never just, it's not been a priority, but yes, I do. I've always, because I loved college.
Well, you
I
should do
loved
that.
college. But I was going to say that the reason I think, so like the Polish, everything in Poland is so different. The history, here, if you go to Mexico, you're going to have almost very, very overlapping history. Like the books kind of have you have some of the similar, like you have Columbus, you have, the people coming from, Europe and the settling of and it's only it only goes back to like what, 250 years?
It'd be about 600 years.
Okay, 600 years. Anyway, but I mean like the history, like
Yes.
starting from like
Right, Columbus, 1400.
Okay,
so.
but in Poland, history books start like 925.
Oh,
like,
wow.
So the first king of Poland was like 900 in the 920 something. And so your history starts way back, and then you have so those kind of things. So the history is different, and then you have Poland changed so many times because there was conquest. Poland was kind of like in the middle of all these other, and Poland changed so many times, and they're teaching you all this stuff in school, and you have to know it all to pass their tests.
Wow.
There's so much to learn.
You would think that they would say, okay, well, none of that matters anymore, and we're going to just start here.
That would be nice. That would have been
World War
helpful,
II
right?
forward.
World War
And
II
that-
forward.
yeah, and that's modern
but no,
Poland.
there was a lot to learn. It was so much. There was a ton of information.
And are Poles very proud that they know all that?
I don't know.
Does that make
I
that make them very happy to know all that information? From what I've known of Poles, it seems to me like that would be like, you're not Polish if you don't know King
don't know.
Lepolski.
I don't know. I think they're proud of their history. I think I don't know if I never had a history conversation with them. I just remember, once I learned the first, I think that's the only thing I regret is that I didn't remember a lot of the stuff that I learned in history.
Right.
That I'm like, so I can't really, that's the only thing I wish I had done is like studied it a little bit more, maybe like gone back and like reviewed it once in a while. I still can.
You still can?
I still can. But yeah.
And so then on when you start homeschooling, and then how did you like that?
I liked it a lot. I'm a self-starter for the most part, especially, when I know that my mom could check in on me every once in a while. But I could sit there and study and read, and it never bothered me at all to sit there. And I loved history. I loved science. I loved literature.
See, when I was doing homeschool, I would do the courses I liked, like the first week. I'd do them all, finish the whole year in a week. So I'd read the whole literature book, and I would read the history book, and then I would just fill out all the tests. And then anything I didn't like, I never did. I
Okay.
just didn't do it at all.
Okay.
And didn't even read the book. I was horrible.
I don't know how you got away with that. Like, if your dad didn't.
The principal didn't mind. The teacher didn't mind. And so,
Wait, so-
I don't understand what he was complaining about.
So were your parents not there?
Well, don't tell them, but no. This is just between me and you and the two listeners, but no.
Because see, we had our principal and our vice principal that were because you when you're homeschooled you have this little privilege called like nap time. We would take advantage sometimes, and yeah, we'd get caught, and yeah, that was we didn't. I don't remember like any harsh consequences, but yeah, we were always like, I'm sorry. Back to work.
No, there was none of that. See, because Wendy, she's such a little rule keeper. She would do everything, and if they say anything, the book says you need to read this and then take 5 minutes, and she would time all that and do everything. I'm like, oh, give me a break. I'm not a rule keeper at all.
That is where she's at. That's where
yeah,
she's.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. I still want to go back and do that.
But to answer your question, did it help us? I wouldn't be able to say because none of us had the opposite experience of not going to homeschool. So I don't know if it helped us at all. I think it helped in the sense that I felt a little bit more relevant when I did move to the States. So I did understand what they were talking about, because as it was when I moved to the States. And I did a little bit of research on this because I had a college paper I had to write, and I did research on, it's called a third culture, and it has to do with when you're a missionary kid or a military kid, and you end up you're basically an American, but you move to a different country and you assimilate into their culture and into their way of life, and you become very much you have friends, you actually develop a third culture where you're not Polish and you're not American. You kind of have this combination of the two, and you play in your own circle. You have a different circle. And so when I moved to the States, basically you have an expectation of coming home. This is home. This is where I belong.
Right.
And when I arrived, it was nothing like what I expected. And I remember months of homesickness and not sure what I was doing and not sure where I was going and not sure. I started college mainly because I didn't know what else to do. And it was sure, why not?
Well, there's that famous line. I don't remember now who wrote it, but it's a famous line in literature that says you can never go home.
Okay. Yeah.
Meaning that once you leave somewhere, it's going to change.
Yeah.
And what you remember of home to be, you would never go back.
And that is actually that's very true. That resonates with me very strongly because, because Mexico was home for so long. And then once I moved to Poland, Mexico became so distant and so far away, and I forgot almost everything. And then Poland, once I moved out of there and I became, adopted a life here, and Poland became kind of a distant thing, which I never thought would happen. I thought I would always have this very strong attraction to Poland, which I love Poland, but I don't have that oh, that's home. And then,
right.
Yeah.
And so you lived in Warsaw the whole time, right? Or did you guys,
No.
you hadn't moved when
They
moved after you left?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so what was that like living in Warsaw?
I loved it.
Yeah. What
told
did you like about it?
I was a teenager, I just, I guess what I loved about it was my parents got us bikes when we were, teenagers. And once we got to about 15, 16, they trusted us with going wherever we wanted to go. And I remember a couple times my sister and I would just go riding our bikes. We would find ourselves on the opposite side of the town of Warsaw. And we would just ride all day long, and there was no concerns. And if we weren't riding our bikes, we were riding the bus system, and we owned it. We owned that. We knew where to be, what time the buses were going to arrive. We knew how to get from one side of town to the other. Yeah, and growing up was fun. Growing up there, it was just a blast. I mean, I think we had a lot of fun growing up there. We traveled. My parents always made sure that we spent family time driving around, exploring. And since we were homeschooled, that was the other advantage of homeschooling, is that when my dad had free time, which was sometimes hard to find, he could just say, "Hey, let's get out of here. Let's go driving. Let's go here. Let's go there." And so it was a lot of fun.
What did you like looking at in Poland? Where did you like going when you would travel?
My best memories were actually of going for drives in the countryside. Like, we didn't go anywhere like specifically.
Like no tourist attractions. You just drove around the countryside.
We did a couple times. We would go to tourist attractions, but that was more like on vacations. Like, we would take like a week and we would just go to, tourist attractions. But
did you guys ever travel Europe?
A little bit, yes. One summer, my dad made a point. We were gonna travel a little bit. I remember him saying, "Look, this is maybe the last time you're ever in this close to any of these countries." So we took one summer and we drove. My grandma was here that summer, was with us, and we drove through Germany, through Belgium, France, went to London, went to Holland, or the Netherlands, and then drove back.
And which one did you like the most?
I liked all of it. I mean, I don't remember having a specific place that I liked a lot, but I liked it all. It was a great experience. I think our main purpose for the trip was to go to the Netherlands, because that's where my grandfather, his ancestor is from. And so our purpose was to go see the Netherlands.
Okay.
And so so we spent most of the time in the Netherlands and in London, because we have family there.
Right.
So we spent some time with them. And so that was, we did visit a lot of London. We saw a lot of England. We went to see a lot of the, like London Bridge and the Parliament. That was a lot of fun. I just remember, I don't remember having a favorite place. We had a lot of just really good fun times. We rode the ferry, because we had to get across the ferry to get to.
So how long was that trip?
Great Britain. I think we spent a week. No, 2 weeks. I think we spent a week. Oh, I can't remember. I want to say a week or two.
Okay. And you guys drove it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We drove it. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of where the. Okay, I see. Trying to think of where Poland is in a relationship to these.
We camped.
You camped?
We camped.
I didn't know they did camping in Europe.
Yes, we camped. We found my dad found a campground just outside of London, and so we camped in London, or near London, and then we camped. Where was it? I guess it was in. We found a campground.
And did you have a tent?
In the Netherlands. Yes, we had. My dad bought this huge 9-person tent. You could fit a table in there. You put a table and still have space for it to sleep on.
Okay.
It was awesome.
And your grandma camped? Did she like that?
So, that arrangement, she did not sleep on the floor. No. We had a van at the time, and the back seats were, the way that it was designed was the back seats were designed to lay flat and turn into a half-sized bed.
Right.
So she slept in the van.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I was going to say, that was interesting.
Yes, yes. And when we were in Holland, we had, I guess we were camping in Poland. That's what it was. We went for a family camping trip. And this is what kind of spurred us on to the trip, was that we were on a camping trip in Poland. And we met this Dutch couple. And my parents and them got into, this is, and then they found, we told them that my grandfather's, grandparents or great grandparents were from the Netherlands. And so they said, well, you should come visit and check it out. So that was and they said, you can stay with us for the week that you're there.
Oh.
So that was one of the lures, because that would so my grandma stayed with them. My grandma and my mom spent all the nights in their guest room. And then we were in a tent.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was in the Netherlands.
That was in the Netherlands.
But that's a good thing about being friendly. You make friends like that, and you can do that.
Yes.
I've never stayed at anyone's
So
house.
those are the. I can't imagine why.
I don't know why I'm still puzzled.
No, but those are the memories that I got from being a missionary kid. They were just fun. We just had a blast. My parents always made sure that we had fun. that it was not something that, it was not all like, ministry. We took breaks for family, and family time was very important.
And
But
so
yeah.
what do you remember of Mexico?
I remember very little. I remember going downtown preaching with my dad. I remember all the like cool snacks that they had on the street. We were never allowed to buy any. My parents never bought us any of the snacks.
Really? Like the corns? and
Once in
the-
a while, but
Like,
it was
you
always
mean like
no.
the corns and
Yes,
the tamales and
the corn,
the pais?
the paletas.
you're
They wouldn't buy you a paleta? What?
They would sometimes, but I just remember we'd go downtown preaching.
Check.
They're gonna be like, yes, we did.
check the record.
But I remember it always
Just said
it being 90% no, like no, you don't need that. But yes,
Not
I remember.
true.
I do remember going downtown preaching, and there was always like people like selling something cool and yummy. And I remember passing out tracts with my parents. I remember road trips. Like we would caravan, a lot of caravanning, and always like with walkie, like some sort of radio system between all the cars. I remember riding in the back of Adrian's truck, like covered truck.
Right.
There's a story about me getting sick and like vomiting all over everybody back there. That was fun.
Adrian in his truck. He always had
Yes,
that truck.
and like the boards that he had for like seating on either
Yes.
side, right?
Yeah.
So I remember those. I have memories of that. Yeah, I don't have like very specific memories, but yeah, those are the things.
Do you
I
still remember your Spanish?
It came back when I moved back to the States. You're in South Texas. You're surrounded by Spanish speakers, so I kind of picked it up more and more, and then I ended up using it more than once I moved here. So it kind of came back to me.
And then how's your Polish now?
I try to keep up with it. In fact, I downloaded an app on my phone to kind of practice my Polish with. So Duolingo, I pull it up on my phone once in a while and just kind of play with my Polish, see if I can remember what the words mean.
And do you think you could still go and
Oh yeah. In fact,
converse?
once in a while, my parents will surprise me. We'll be on a WhatsApp call. They're like, "Look who's here! Say hi to Grzegorz." And I'm like, "Hi," So then I'm like, I have to speak Polish, so yeah. Sometimes I've been put in the spot with my parents and the coolest part was this was really cool when I started working. So I moved here and I got a really cool job with Debbie Tietzman when I was like 19.
One of the women. I was told that I need to explain
Who people are?
who people are.
Yes.
Because apparently I have more than a couple listeners. So Debbie Tietzman's one of the sisters in the church at Gatherings in Jesus' Name, or I don't know.
And she and my mom are really good friends. And my mom, she knew that I was looking for a job. And so she kind of kept an eye out for me. And she got me. She's like, hey, she called me. She's like, I got a job for you. So anyway, I started working at this place called Tesoro, which is a oil and gas
Energy
industry. And so I started working there. And there was a guy in the mailroom who was Polish.
Really?
And so he would come to my desk every, whenever he had a chance to. We would just practice our Polish together. So he was real cool.
But he was a Pole from Poland?
He was a Pole. Had been living in the States for 20 years, but he was from Poland. So it was really cool. So we would.
You remember the church where the Southside Church on Mission Road
Yes.
was like
Yes.
right down the road from
And
the
I
Polish.
never went there.
What was the name of that place? The Polish Embassy?
Yeah.
It wasn't the embassy.
There's a little hole. in
Some
the
sort of
wall
like
shack.
social gathering for Polish people.
Yeah.
Like a
I never
community
went
center.
there either. I was always very curious about
I
that
wanted.
place.
I should have gone there. I should have gone in
I
there.
worked at a little town that is see where to be east of here,
Panna Maria.
Panna Maria. Yeah, I worked there
I've
in
heard
there.
of it. I've never been there.
Yeah, it's all Poles.
And how's it? What is it like there? Because I've never been there.
Well,
Does it have like
I was
pierogi?
in the bathroom. That's where I worked.
You didn't go check out to see if they had
I was
pierogi?
there super early. I was in there. It was like what was it? It was like their convention center for the little town, if you want to call it that. It was like their little, it was like their convention center, I guess. It was kind of like a metal building or whatever. So, but yeah, it was just a little, and we were doing the stalls.
Gotcha.
And we did them on a Saturday, I think. You were there.
Nah, I wouldn't know. I don't remember.
Maybe Cole. Anyways,
we should do a road trip.
It was back
I'll
when I
tell
did.
Jason.
It was
We should do a
back
road
when I
trip.
was when I was homeschooling you guys. Yeah, I was teaching you the fine arts of toilet partition and toilet paper
Was
installation.
that the summer program?
Yeah, so I
That
would
was our
work
summer
on.
school.
I would take
Wonderful.
I would take Saturday work, and I would take them with me to do
Yeah, I
it.
was wondering why all my friends are going to the mall. Those stupid. Can't believe they wouldn't. When I told them, y'all should just go to my school. I have so much fun.
I'm sure they jumped on that one real quick.
We took a family vacation to where was that? Fredericksburg.
So I thought it was an actual vacation because my mom, my sister go.
Yeah, we all
And
went.
he goes, and there's this small little job. I just need to do that, right? And we assumed we were there on vacation.
Oh boy.
We were not. So so we're sleeping there. And what happened? Okay, we worked the first day, right? We didn't finish, right? And then we stayed the night.
Maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Well, he gets all mad at us because we slept in. Like, he was mad, right? And so he calls my mom. He goes, you bring these boys down over here where we can get to work. Right? And we're like, what the heck? And so, they go to the shops and have fun. And
The girls
drop
have
us
fun.
off at the job site. And we have to work for the rest of the day.
Oh, the rest of the
It
day.
was horrible.
Well, if you weren't so slow and lousy, we wouldn't have been there the whole day.
So what kind of a job was it?
Toilet partitions.
Toilet partitions. Okay, I thought maybe this is before toilet partitions.
No, there was nothing before that.
There was not. Okay.
There's nothing before toilet partitions.
Your life begins and ends with
started.
toilet partitions, huh?
Yes. Before toilet partitions, you used blindfolds. That's how you got privacy. You just put a blindfold on, and then you have your own privacy.
Okay.
I keep trying to convince people that's all we need.
So do you resent him for those days of?
Of working? No.
Okay.
Yeah, at school, I was always the one that had money. Even
Okay.
with these kids who are, they were rich. I lived in Lavernia. I mean, they were driving $30,000 trucks that they were giving to them for their birthday.
But they never had spending money.
But they never had any, spending money. Parents paid for their gas, and they got money if their parents allowed them to have money. I was able to, and it came with a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
So, they were very.
So you understood the
they had to
benefit
do what
early
they
on?
had to do because of their parents. They made them do things that I didn't have to do.
Did you realize the benefit that early on? Like, did you realize or?
No. No, there was no benefit. Early on. That was miserable. I hated it. Yeah, it was bad.
Imagine if I hadn't been so pleasant to work with.
Yeah, he wasn't. I remember
He wasn't?
He used to get real mad. So there was this time I did something stupid, and I gave him a look, and I was young. I was real young. I gave him this look like, I got it, right? And I was young, right? Attitude problem, right? So then I'm walking, I give him an attitude, and then I walk away, and I'm walking towards the van, walk all the way outside, and I just hear stomping. And I turn around, and he's in my face. He goes, ah, and he hits the van, and I'm just twitching. He goes, what's wrong with your eye? I don't know.
I don't think any of that happened.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how parents think that we embellish later on. They're like,
We don't think. You lie. It's not embellished. You're not embellishing. It's like not going to fifth grade.
we remember,
Hey,
right, Nolan?
you can testify. You can testify, Joe and Debbie. You can testify. They lie. They just lie.
Yeah, no. They think we embellish, but no, this is how we remember it. And it's their fault for not fixing that right? They should have revisited and said, now what did we do here and what happened? But they didn't. They just
Okay.
left us to figure it out on our own.
Okay. Talk about lies. They're testifying, aren't they? They're liars. So told you. That's too funny. And so how was it? How did you like being a missionary's kid in Poland?
I loved it. Like I said, I had very fond memories. I don't remember. I'm kind of with Wendy. I was a rule keeper. I kept things together. I wasn't the perfect student, but I was very. I didn't like getting into trouble.
Right.
And so I did my best to stay where I was supposed to be, do what I was supposed to do. And so I don't remember having any bad experiences. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed I guess one of the things that I loved the most was the spontaneity of being a missionary kid. Because I remember there was this couple that had started coming to our church. They found us. I don't remember how. But they were coming pretty faithfully, and they had come from a tiny little town called Helm. And they had a really great Baptist church there. And they asked Brent and my dad to come and preach a revival there. So we went for a week. Maybe I felt like it was longer than a week, but I know it was a week probably. But it was my parents were like, pack your bags. We're going to go for a week to this little tiny town in the no man's land. And we had the best time of our lives there. There was this amazing youth group. They were all about our age, a little bit older, but they were just fun. We spent the week fellowshipping, and then we would go kind of like passing out tracts and trying to evangelize the area. And then at night we would do the revival meeting. And they were just a really small church, but their youth group was just alive.
It was a Polish church?
Yes.
Okay.
And I had never seen a youth group that alive. Mm. And it was amazing. For me, it was like one of the best summers I remember. And I just remember having so much fun there. And I think the sad part about that kind of an experience is that it's never the same. So we would go back to Helm, and it was always like, we're going back to Helm. And it was never that good again,
Right.
But it was that was just an amazing time. It was an amazing week. And we made so many friends that week. And I still am friends with a lot of those people that we met there. And so there was just spontaneity, like, oh, we're going here this week. That was, it was fun. I just remember and meeting new people, and always something new, always something different. And that was something that I liked a lot.
And how did you like the part of the ministry there in Warsaw and starting the church? And because I've talked to some people, and they, it's hard for many kids, missionary kids, pastors' kids, who are church planners and a church planting family. It's hard for them because the churches are always small, or usually, I say not all, usually they're small. Usually there's not a lot of people their age. There's these, and so they end up having difficulty with that.
I am not normal. Let me just come out and say that right now. I'm not normal. I'm fine with not having 15 friends. I'm fine with not having, a BFF. Like, I was fine with a book and, a friend that I could, call on if I really needed somebody to talk to. So it wasn't, like, for me, it wasn't a big deal. Linda might have a different story to tell, but this was me. I didn't have a problem with that. I connected very well with adults. So the adults in our church, I connected well with them, and I was friends. I consider myself friends with the adults in our church. Yeah, it didn't bother me at all. I actually liked it, and I found my place there, and I became involved in the church planting. Like I was very involved in the Bible studies. I was faithfully went to all the Bible studies. I would go downtown with all the young people, all the church group to evangelize, and I enjoyed that. That was my life. That was something, and I embraced it, and it never bothered me one bit.
How many youth were there at that time?
By the time I left, there was a well, I guess it kind of fluctuated up and down, but we had a group at one point of about like 7 to 10 young people, and it was a nice group. And youth group there was a little bit different because they're kind of youth, but we had a guy in our youth group that he was kind of in, kind of not, but he was like in his 30s, and he was kind of, because he was single and he was kind of a, I don't want to say goofy, but he was kind of one of those like
I know exactly what you mean.
One of those guys that just didn't really seem to have any reason to grow up and be serious. He was just fun. And had that. So
that's essentially every man who isn't married.
Okay.
That's just true. This is the truth.
So we had a good, decent youth group. It wasn't, we weren't tight, but we had fun. We would do like little Bible studies. We'd have like little youth get-togethers. We'd try to make something happen. I don't remember it getting to where we were like dependent on each other, where we. It would have been great if it had gone that way. I don't remember it getting to that point. And maybe Cassidy and Linda. Cassidy is the daughter of our coworker, my parents' coworker, and she was my age. She may have a different story to tell there too, because she was much more connected to the youth group. In fact, she, the way I remember, she depended a lot on the youth group, and so she was always, with the youth group. I wasn't dependent on them. Like, I was fine with just, like I said, with one friend that I could count on.
And then, so what made you move back to the States? Why did that?
Several reasons. My dad had a very honest. This is one of the best things my dad was really good about, leveling with us. And he had a very honest conversation with me when I turned 18. I guess I was 18 and a half. So I'd just graduated. I was probably about 3 or 4 months past, maybe less than that. Anyways, I just graduated high school, and my dad sat me down. He said, "You have 2 options. If you stay here, you have the option of trying to find a job, which they're for an American citizen, they're not easy. Like, you're limited as to what you can do. And then you have to, decide if you're going to settle here. If you end up staying here, you may end up, marrying somebody here, and then this is your life. Like, this is where you're going to stay. Or you can go to the States, and I will pay for your ticket. You can go back to the States. You can go to college, go to Oak Knoll. And like I said, I always was more, I loved different. I loved change. I loved a little bit of like a surprise. And so for one of the things was that I wanted something different. I wanted to see what it was like to live in the States. And then the other thing was that I wanted to go to Oak Knoll, and I'd always kind of wanted to find a husband at Oak Knoll or at Gatherings in Jesus' Name. That's what I always imagined myself doing. So that was basically why I chose to come back.
And how old were you when you came back?
I was 18.
You were 18.
I was a few months shy of 19, but yeah.
And you came back by yourself, or did they come back? They bring you back?
My mom brought me back.
Okay.
My mom, yeah, they sent my brother back. They were like, bye-bye. But
that's right. He was here for
yes.
a while.
Yes,
that's right. I remember that now.
But he came back to Poland, I guess, 6 months. And then he was homesick for 6 months, and then I left. Maybe it was in that time frame. And then, so my mom brought me back here. She saw that I was settled. She left after I got my first job, which was kind of just a part-time thing. And I stayed there for maybe like a month or 2. And then I went on to my next job and got a better job after that. And then I ended up at Tesoro.
And so how long did you work at Tesoro? 4
years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They eventually, so I started there as a temp. I was only I was through a contracting agency.
Right.
And I was there basically because the job that Debbie Teasman had found me was basically just filing. It was a data entry type job. And they just were like, look, we just need her to do these things, and then that's all we need her for. But then people would be like, hey, I need someone like that. Send her over here. And then so I would finish that job, and then I'd move on to the next department. And someone else would see what I was doing. It's like, hey, we need somebody over here. And I just kind of traveled. And then after a while, they were like, you know what, let's just create a position for her because she's not going anywhere.
Well, that worked out.
Yeah.
Well, see, that shows that, and that's one of the things we try to do on the podcast is to explain to people that there are opportunities everywhere you are.
Yes.
And it's really a matter of attitude and applying yourself. That if you'll apply yourself and you'll have the attitude that I want to be helpful and I want to make the company money, then there are opportunities everywhere for people. Yeah.
And I loved where I was working. They were great people. I had a great experience there. And I did not work with Debbie Teasman hardly at all, actually. I worked with other people. So I worked in the legal department, and that's where I started, was in the legal department. Debbie Teasman was in the accounting department. So I think for like a short stint, I was helping them organize their files. But even then, I wasn't working with her much.
Right.
I worked mostly with her boss, I think it was. But legal department, and then I went to security, and I was in security. I became the administrative assistant.
Oh, I thought you were the security guard. I was going to say, I want to see a picture of that.
Oh, no, that was that. No, it gets better. I was actually I oversaw the security guards. I'm not kidding. They put me kind of not legal, not like where they reported to me, but I had to watch over, like, because I wrote up their protocols, and if they broke protocol, I had to like bring the attention to it, like, you broke protocol. So that was really funny. I'd be like, oh, and I was the garage police officer. So like if you parked wrong, I would be the one to like.
Oh my goodness! You were the hall monitor. Oh my!
I told you I was a rule keeper.
That's not being a rule keeper. That's something else entirely. That's sad.
I don't know. It's what they told me to do. They were like, "Look, we need to make sure people are parked right." And I was like, "Yes, sir."
Parked right? And how would they park wrong?
Okay, so we had this one guy who bought a super fancy, I don't know, Mustang, I don't know, some fancy car.
And you wanted to park it on the line.
And it was a special, like, paint job. And he would take up, like, 2 or 3 parking spaces.
Yes.
And he wanted to be in the shade.
Of course.
And so I had to go and tell him, like, you can't park like that. And he'd be like, okay. And he got smart, and he would park on the roof of the parking garage in full sun, and he would take 3 parking spaces. I was like, that's fine. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
You're in the sun.
And did he? Man, those people are so annoying. They got their stupid car, and they're doing that.
Yeah.
If they do it out where no one wants to park,
yeah,
then that's like that, like on the roof of the garage or whatever.
But he started off in the shade, and we were like,
of course,
you can't do that. And then we'd have like employees who would try to park in the visitor parking, and we're like, come on. Like you're gonna be here all day. Get over there.
There's always somebody like that. We have people like that in our company.
Yeah.
It's like that. Yeah. The shortest way possible to get in the building, he's gonna park there. But it's always nice on some things because when he gets away with it, then it's nice because then we don't have to walk so far. Yeah. And he normally does because they look at it. He gets out of the car. The van that he gets out of jumps up like 2 feet because of how much he weighs it down, right? And they're like, okay.
Yeah, basically he's handicapped.
Yeah,
he's probably listening, because he's going to be on next week. Yeah, he's coming on next week. We're just joking. Objects in the camera are smaller than they appear.
Maybe that worked against.
But
that's funny.
He finds the shortest way to anything we do.
Yeah.
It's awesome sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes, unless you get into trouble.
It generally works in our favor.
Unless I'm on the job. Then you wouldn't have gotten away with that.
She's heartless. You get these hall monitors.
But it was fun. Even that was fun because I would have great opportunities to do something that I never thought I would do. Like, for example, we had an instance where, like, because it's an oil and gas company, and so there was always this like, look, if they're gonna if we have terrorist attacks, they might attack oil and gas. So that was always kind of something that we were trained to be cautious of, whatever. And so we have like double security doors. So we had the first door, which is always unlocked, and we had the second door. So the security guard sits in between those 2 doors. And we had an incident where the guard wasn't at his desk, and someone came in and there was some sort of ruckus, and so we had to rewrite the protocols and say, look, if you have to take a bathroom break, you need to call Missy or her boss to come down and sit at the front desk. So that was really annoying, but I got to wrote the protocol, like, look, if this happens. So I got to write all that up, and I had to like send it out to everybody. So that was really fun, like rewriting protocols.
Did you ever go sit at the desk?
I did, and that was like, it would interrupt my day. I'd be like in the middle of something, and I had to stop what I was doing. And as it was, I had 3 desks. I did. It was so I never my workstation never. I felt like my continuity never really was. My day was always interrupted with having to move to the next workstation.
Right.
But it was fun.
I can see how you would dissuade a terrorist organization from definitely. I could see how that would work. It's like they'd open the first door and they'd be like, oh.
Yeah, not going in that way.
Where's the Exxon?
Oh yeah. Maybe they should have rethought that strategy. But no, I had fun. It was a great job, and I liked it. I liked my boss. I liked the people I worked for. So.
And then, so you quit there when you got married, or what?
I quit after Micah was born.
Okay.
So a month after Micah was born, I stayed on there. I had some really great people that I worked for, and the vice president, because I hadn't put in my resignation, but I was pregnant. And they all knew that I was conservative, that I would probably want to stay home with my baby. So they all kind of picked up on that, and so he was actually a Mormon. The guy, he was big, huge, like 6'4". Huge guy. He weighed, I don't know how much he weighed, but he was big. And he came into my little cubicle and he filled up the whole thing, right? And he leans on my desk and he goes, "So, what are you gonna do after this bambino is born?" And I'm like, "Well," and because I'm trying. My supervisor had warned me like not to give anything completely concrete because at the time we were going into recession. It was 2008.
Oh.
Recession had just started, so they were laying off people who were, there was, and so he said, "Look, I just need to know soon, when the baby's born, because if I don't have to lay people off, if I can put them in your place, I would prefer to just, put them in your position." And he was very honest, and he was really great. But he said, "Look, if you ever at any time want to come back after the baby, at some point, just give us a call."
Have you ever thought of going back?
No, I mean, and not like in that. Not that way, no. Because the only way I ever thought about getting a job is to stay home, like working from home.
Right.
Where I can be home with the kids and be available. So, yeah, no, I never thought of going back. But, it was really really nice of them to leave that door open for me.
Yeah.
They're great people I worked with there.
And so once Micah was born, and you have 4 kids.
I now have 4 kids.
You
Yes.
have 4 kids. How old is the youngest?
She just turned 6.
6. Wow. Man,
Yeah, it's
time
been a
went by so
long
fast.
time. Mm-hmm.
And so Micah is Micah's the oldest. How old is he?
11 and a half. He'll be 12 at the end of this year.
Man, it's going to be so fast, and they're going to be all grown up.
It is. Yes.
It's going to go by very quick.
Yeah, it's so fast. Like being a stay-at-home mom was the best choice I ever made because it's gone. Like it's already almost gone.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I don't even know how it happened.
Well, my youngest is only going to live here for another 10 or 15 years. They're going to be gone so fast.
Well, my girls have claimed, they're like, "Mom, we're never leaving." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine."
See, I never understood that. But, I know parents that like can't wait for their kids to leave the house. Once they get to and I was never that way. I never wanted any of them to leave. I was happy if they just stayed at home.
I don't think we've gotten to that point yet because we're still having so much fun with our kids.
Well, your kids aren't to being 17 and 18.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if you're one of the ones that see. Terry was more like she wanted them to leave. She wanted the rooms back.
I think Jason would be more like you. I don't know how. I think I'm kind of adopting Jason's perspective more and more. But Jason, and I've said this before, Jason approaches parenting with excitement. He is excited about everything. He can't wait for a little bit of resistance from the kids. He's like, he just can't wait for it.
Well, see, I just like the free labor.
Free labor.
The free labor. Jason's so excited about everything. Like teenage years, he's excited about that. Just, yeah.
It's the only legal form of slavery left is kids. So it's like you got to take advantage of it. After that, you got to start paying for all that stuff. Paying to get the trash taken out, paying to get the floors, paying for the dishes to wash.
But once they leave, the messes go away too. So that's the
No, I make the messes. Nothing's going away. I'm the messy one.
Oh, that's funny. I could get used to the free labor for life.
I keep having to apply all kinds of pressure on Kirsten to keep her here.
What's your current pressure? I'm just curious.
No, I'm joking. No, see, what we did with our kid, with Kirsten, they got married. And so once they're married, they can't be here. I don't want them. I wouldn't do that to their family. But with Kirsten, she wanted to go to school, and so the deal we had with her was that if she wanted me to pay for her college, she had to live at home. I wasn't going to pay for her college, and then she's going to go off and party or whatever. Mm-hmm. So if she wanted to do that, she had to pay for her own college. Of course, that's very, very hard for most kids to do, to come up with enough money. and she was going to have to buy her own car. She was going to have to provide her own insurance, all of that. She'd have to pay. They weren't going to go live independently with me paying for everything.
Yeah.
Because to
makes
me,
sense.
they're just pretending to be independent.
Yeah.
So that was the deal. But if she lived at home, then I provided her car. I paid her insurance. She didn't have to pay rent or any
Yeah.
type of thing. And she didn't even have to work. She could just go to school. But she had to get good grades. So if she didn't get good grades, then she had to pay for that semester.
You know, you're kind of scaring me because I haven't even, we hadn't even started talking about college. And I'm like, no, wait, no, we're not there yet. We're not at
you're gonna
college
be there really
yet.
quick.
Ah,
It happens real
they're
fast.
growing up too fast.
Yeah, because Kirsten wanted to go out of state,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there was no way I was paying $300,000 for a college degree. That's craziness. And when you can get the same thing in state, in county, like you live in Bexar County, like I was telling you, you should finish your degree because it's extremely cheap if you're in county.
Yes.
I mean, it's real cheap. We're out of the Bexar County, and she went to one of the Alamo colleges, and so it cost twice as much, which still wasn't very expensive.
No, right. No, that's one of the reasons why I did start college when I first moved here, because I was like, well, that's affordable. I can do that. And I didn't have any, I was living with my grandma, so I had very few expenses. She was paying for most of it. I just paid her room and board. Mm-hmm. And then my insurance and my car payment, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's extremely cheap and to do it that way. And the idea that you need to go to a university or even an out-of-state university, that's something that kids need to understand. That's like buying a luxury car.
Mm-hmm.
That's like buying a BMW when you could get a Ford,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll do the same thing. It'll get you the same place. It may not look as good to say, I went to Northwest Vista as to say I went to Tennessee UT or Tennessee University of Tennessee or something. It may not look as good on paper, but it actually doesn't make any substantial difference.
Right, and it's not like you're actually it's like you wear it on your shirt or on your hat. Like I went to. I mean,
Who you're talking to.
Yeah.
A lot of them like wearing that big. I mean,
No,
all your family wear that. huge
that's
ring.
true. The ring.
Yeah,
that's
they got to
true.
wear their ring.
That
Let
is
everyone
true.
know.
Let everybody know.
Yeah,
And they
clunk
got-
it. Look where I was like, oh, good grief. Get over
That's
yourself.
true.
How long ago was that? Was that back when they were still teaching horses?
Agriculture.
Yeah. It's like, what are you proud about? No, it's real funny. See, because we work in that in construction, and there'll be general contracting
yes.
companies where all they'll hire is like A&M people, and they all have their ring, and they're like their little boys club of A&M boys club or whatever. So we're around those kind of people who
Gotcha.
actually do wear that.
They do.
On their sleeve,
They're-
on their forehead. They're stamped with it everywhere they can find.
Okay. Because I was like, a car, you drive up to it, you got that loud muffler, you make that entrance. But
Well, they do
whenever,
that too.
okay, all right.
And then, but when they do any studies, like the CEOs of Fortune 500 do any of these, you find that there is no substantial benefit to many of these degrees in most jobs.
Yeah.
So while it may be prestigious on paper, it doesn't actually translate statistically to higher paying jobs, to better jobs. It doesn't translate to that. And especially when you're talking about your associates, right? Your first 2 years, nobody cares where you got your basics from.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I told. That was our deal with Kirsten, that she was going to go at least 2 years to the community college. We were not going to pay $100,000 for her to take a math class.
Yeah.
Right? That's crazy. And also, like you're saying, kids should take advantage that high schools now are offering these college credits.
courses,
You're
yeah.
getting college credits. What do they call them? What do they call those courses?
Advanced? Or is it?
No, they have a word. They have a term for them.
I don't know.
I can't think of it now. It just left me. Anyways, there's a term for these courses, and you get college credits for them.
Yeah.
And you should be taking advantage of those in high school because it costs you nothing to do it. So you can come out and have almost a semester of credits if you do it, if you're smart about it, and then go to a community college and get your basics, and you'll get that if you're doing it in your county. Then you're going to get it for almost nothing, very cheap. And then, depending on where you want to go from there, well, then
Yes.
you only have 2 years, and you can go to a
Get your
university.
bachelor's and
Right, because there are some advantages on that part of going to a university or postgraduate work and so on, graduate and postgraduate work. And but if you do it smart, you can do this for a lot less money and without any debt, which is the problem that that many people today, I think young people don't realize, and they're all going into this enormous amounts of debt to get a college degree, that when you put the math to it, they are not going to actually make money for years
yeah.
because they're going to be because of all they spent. I mean, they can
Yeah.
spend $500,000 to get a college degree.
Yeah, I actually went to night school because I was working full time.
Wow.
Because I worked full time and I would go to school twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
For how long? How long
3
is the
hours.
class?
There were
3
3-hour
hours.
classes.
Really?
And yeah, it was one class. So I took 2 classes every semester because that's all I could handle because I was taking night class. And I would get off work. I made made arrangements with my boss so that I could get off at 4:30 instead of 5, so I could beat traffic and get to my classes a little bit early so I could feel relaxed, so I wasn't rushing. And then I would take like a dinner with me. I would pack like 2 lunches, one for at school, one for at work, and one for at school. And that way I would just go straight to class.
And how were they as far as working you to get to for that? Most businesses are pretty amenable to helping people.
Once I
continue
became an
their
employee,
education.
became an employee, every year they would reimburse me my whatever I paid if I made a C or higher.
Really?
I had reimbursement.
See, that's another thing that people don't realize, that you can work and go to school, and a lot of times these companies will help you, or even in your case reimburse you for your tuition.
Yeah, I had reimbursement, and Our plan was that I continued college after we got married. That's why I continued college, because I was getting paid. They would pay for my tuition, so I continued going to college. I think I quit. I don't know why I quit. I think things got to just too crazy trying to balance everything out, and colleges became kind of not important for a while after we got married. I think we were also kind of on our honeymoon, so yeah, just like, you know what, don't care anymore.
This is why
So that happened.
This is why I made my daughter finish college before she got married.
You know, if I look back, I don't regret the decision
Right.
I made, but if there was if it had come to a point where our livelihood depended on me graduating college, then yeah, that would have been like, okay, I should have finished. But yeah, our livelihood has never depended on and we had always decided that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, so that wasn't something that was important, because I was going to be a stay-at-home mom.
See,
I wasn't going to work outside the home.
If I understood what I understand now, or knew what I knew now, then I would have strongly advised you guys to wait to get married and finish your school.
I could see that. Looking back,
and it's not about regrets.
Yeah, no.
It's about saying, what would have been what is a wiser course of action.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean this about you. I'm just using you as an example.
I could see that, and
but
I see the reason, and I would definitely probably say the same thing to somebody else.
That's been my advice to my daughter, is that because she has a young man that they're interested in, I think, in getting married. There's nothing formal, but they both, before they're even going to discuss that, they want to finish their college, because they know that once you get married, that makes it very hard to do that as well.
Yeah.
And you end up having to try to juggle stuff, and things fall by the wayside.
And people do it, and kudos to them, because I became lazy. I was like, I loved school. I really enjoyed it, but it was very time consuming, because I had to, write papers, and these papers are really long. For college, you have to write long papers, and so it took a lot of time that I could have been spending with him. So that was like, maybe not so.
Sure.
I can always come back to it later, and so that was kind of.
Well, you need to finish.
Yes.
If you're that close, you ought to get it done.
Yes, I do.
Especially now, they've made it so easy with this online course. I mean, if you are someone who likes to study, likes to do classwork, doesn't need someone to drive you, right? Someone to push you. Well, then it's great. I think it's great.
It is. It
I
is.
would.
In fact, that's kind of what I'm doing with homeschooling. So there's some really great resources. I'm sure you're probably familiar with some of them, but there's a Hillsdale College.
Mm-hmm.
I've enrolled Micah in a couple of the courses.
Oh yeah.
Yes, just because we want him to get we enrolled him in the Constitution 101. And it's a little bit above his level, just a little bit. But we told him, look, take your time, watch the video 2-3 times if you have to. We'll talk about it. So we would, but I took the first course, and it was really, really interesting. And so I'm kind of challenging myself with this homeschooling. Like, I'm going to learn it, and then I'm going to help him learn it. So I'm kind of giving myself that challenge.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually looked into Hillsdale for Kirsten when she was talking about maybe wanting to go for her last 2 years, for her bachelor's to go, and I looked into Hillsdale.
Oh, right, but they're the free. We're doing the free courses.
No, I understand.
Right, I just want to make sure that cleared that up.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying I looked into her
Yeah.
to see, because I wanted to see if I couldn't find more of a conservative university for her to go to,
Yeah.
because they're so corrupt. These universities are just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I haven't looked into. I've heard your other podcasts on college, and I went to college, and I don't remember. Well, then again, I'm kind of.
Well, I've heard that night college courses are very different than daytime college courses. That's what I've been told by people. I wouldn't know. I haven't been to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I've heard that the nighttime college courses, you got the students there. They're more driven.
They are.
They're there for a purpose. They actually need a degree for school or for work,
Mm-hmm.
or they didn't get it when they were young and they're there, and so you tend to have an older crowd, a more driven crowd, a more purposed crowd. The teachers understand what they're teaching, who they're teaching to, and so I know some people that I think Wendy took a lot of night courses, and I think she says that she liked them a lot better.
I had professors that would give us their personal phone number, say, look, if you're having a hard time, call me. Just because they knew that these people were working full time, they were trying juggling a home, life with kids probably, and so they are very, very flexible. And I actually really enjoyed night school. I really liked it.
Now, which school were you going to?
SAC.
Okay.
It was the one that was closest to like where I worked and where I lived, so that I wasn't driving for like an hour.
You were the one downtown, San Pedro?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I also have heard that the community colleges aren't nearly as bad as universities are. The community colleges, you don't have the hoity-toity social justice warriors
I can see that.
in the departments nearly as much. That's what I've heard. Now,
Yeah,
I think it's filtering down from the universities where it was prevalent down to high schools and junior highs, and we're starting to see it.
Well, and of course,
all levels.
when I went to school, it was, oh my goodness, it's like 15 years ago almost now.
Mm-hmm.
13, 15 years ago. It's a long time.
Yeah, it is a long time. You may have to take a refresher course.
I may have to. I may not be able to just pick up where I left off. Who knows?
You might not. How long are the credits good for? Do you know?
I have no idea.
You'd have to look into all that.
I'd have to look into all that, yeah.
Yeah. Once they change technologies, I think you have to start over. I don't think you can just pick back up.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
You should look into that.
I used to have all my all my stuff, but I've lost it because I've moved it around so many times and trying to get ready for homeschooling. I've been tossing stuff that I'm like, why am I keeping this?
And so when you came back from Poland, was your plan to get married?
I would say 80% of my plan was to get. That was basically why. I didn't have any like super.
And so what was your plan?
Goals.
How was that going to work out for you?
I didn't know. I had no. My goal was Oaknall. That was it. Like the only thing I had was it's going to happen at Oaknall. If it doesn't happen there, it's not going to happen.
Man.
That was.
It's putting all your eggs in a basket.
Yes, I did. I did. Maybe I should. Maybe don't use my example because it may not work out. But yes, and that was tough because I was related to 50% of the young men in the church.
That's what I'm thinking. You might as well be going to the family reunion looking for.
Yeah, so that was a challenge. So yeah, that was fun.
You didn't ever date any of your cousins, did you?
Not that I'm aware of. Let's not go back and do any like real deep research.
And so how did that work out? Because Jason your husband, when did he start coming to church? I mean, like faithfully.
So his story is
What year did you get there?
I got there in 2006. Wait, no, I graduated 2004, and I got there 2004. Yeah, so I moved to the States in 2004.
Okay.
And then I think he started coming to church like around the same time I got there, but I didn't notice him.
Okay.
I don't even remember him being there. And he apparently he was very much a teenager at the time. He would wear like the like saggy pants and all that stuff. And
Jason was a sagger?
Oh. That was him. Yeah. And I was like, I don't remember that.
We need to get him a pair and have him put them on so we can see what he looked like that. I can't even imagine him with a sag.
So yeah, he was.
I remember
You remember?
Yeah. Yeah, he wore the Dickies pants with the long shirt, and then he combed his hair all the way down.
Straight
down.
flat. Yes.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. He did that for a long time. I finally got him. I was like, no, you're marrying me. The hairstyle's gone. Like, and as for our wedding, it was real sweet. For our wedding, for our engagement pictures, he took all, because his hair is very hard to manage, and that's why he combed it straight, because that's the only way it would go. He put so much gel in his hair, and he got it to comb sideways, and he did it for me. It was so sweet. And for our wedding,
and
he
then
did
he looked
that.
like one of those plastic superheroes with the plastic hair.
But yeah, after that, that's actually why his hair is like, he wears his hair shorter than you do,
Right.
because it's just unmanaged.
I just don't have hair. People think you cut it short. Oh, yeah. That's what I do.
So, yeah. So when I didn't even notice Jason. Didn't even notice him until much later, which is really strange, as a whole different story there. But I actually didn't find anybody at Oaknall for like 2 years. So a year and a half goes by. There's nobody there. There's a few of the guys that I respected a lot, but there was never like any interest, and so I never dated any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't date anybody in the church. My first actual experience with, if you call it dating, was a guy that I met at college. So I was taking this English class, and this guy came up to, he came up to me and we started talking. Turned out that he was a Christian, and his parents were, longtime Christians, and we just started talking, exchanged phone numbers, and we didn't really date. He just wanted to, he may have called it dating. I was just like, okay, this guy's a nice guy. We met up a couple times, but it was, he ended up being kind of like the kind of guy that I didn't want, because everything about him was everything I didn't want in a man, in a husband. And so he kind of allude to like, we should, and I was always like, no, I'm not interested. He would ask me, we should date. I'm like, no. And it was very frustrating for him. But I was like, look, I'm fine with friends. But yeah.
Guys don't have friends.
Yeah, I learned that.
Oh, they don't have girlfriends.
Well, there was this whole thing, because I was like, we had a
That's
family
what women
reunion.
don't understand.
Yes, yeah. I had to learn that the hard way. It wasn't super hard for me, but
All women think, oh no, we're just friends, and it's like,
yeah, it didn't
no.
happen.
Men don't have friends who
No,
are girls. That just
no.
doesn't.
He had a lot of baggage, and then he was a nice guy, like super nice guy. But there was a lot of things that I'd already decided were my, like, as standards, that I was not gonna lower my standards, and he just wasn't something that I was interested in. Yeah, could I have made a lot? Yeah, I could have. Yeah, he was a nice guy. Like, you can go a long way with a nice guy. But then there's those little things that I knew I didn't want to fight. There's little battles that I didn't want in my life.
Right.
And some of them were just basically like going to church, because he was a Christian, but going to church wasn't his priority.
Right.
And I could tell. And I was like, look, I'm not gonna fight you. Like, I'm not gonna do that. It's not the life I want. So then there was little things like that I was like, he didn't get it. So it frustrated him, but I was like, oh, sorry. So that was my first experience with anybody, because up till that point, I had never dated. I'd never had anybody that, where I actually met with somebody and looked at somebody as different than more than a friend.
Right.
So
You didn't have any dates in Poland? No?
Not a single one.
Oh.
Which this is why I'm saying I'm so different from most people. Like, most girls would have had like 5 boyfriends by the time they got to 19. I turned 19 and I hadn't had a single date. Like, so I was very different. And I knew that I was different very early on, because all of my friends and my sister would be, you know, goo-goo eyes over who knows who, you know, some pop star, some singer, some whatever. And I would be like, why? Like, why does he, like, what's so, I just didn't get it. It
Right.
wasn't something that, I didn't understand that. And so I knew I was different. So it didn't surprise me that I didn't get asked to go on dates or anything. It just surprised me, because I
Right.
was different, and I was okay with that. And I was okay with that. It didn't bother me. There were days I'd be like, that'd be kind of nice, but no.
And then so then how did you end up getting interested in Jason? How did that work out?
That's a cool story. So he started coming to Oak Knoll because his sister made him.
Oh, really?
So from what I understand, his sister was dating
His sister's older than him?
a year older, 1 year
Okay.
older. Elizabeth is 1 year older than Jason, and she had started dating one of the young men at Oak Knoll at gatherings in Jesus' name, and she's kind of a shy, she's kind of quiet. They're both quiet, but she didn't want to go by herself.
Right.
So she would literally go into Jason's room and start throwing shoes at him to wake him up, and she would drag him out of bed and make him go to church with her. So their mom would take them both to church, drop them off, and Jason was kind of just there. And he ended up going to one of the youth Bible Sunday school classes, which ended up being Mark Jones's Bible study,
Right.
Sunday school class. So Mark Jones, at first, and just another young kid in his class, but after a while, they started realizing that they had more in common, like a lot in common. Jason and Mark Jones started talking, and Mark Jones found out that Jason had gotten saved at the age of 8, and was kind of just didn't know a whole lot about the Bible, didn't have a whole lot of discipleship, didn't really have any direction in his Christian life, and so he took him under his wing and said, "Okay, well, let's do some Bible studies. Let's do some." So he discipled Jason, and so there was so much that Jason learned. So Jason was just a sponge. He took everything that Mark Jones taught him, excuse me, and just soaked it up, just ate it up. And I was on the sidelines, because at this time I'm going through kind of a like homesickness, because it was still very early on from when I moved to the States, because I started college almost within like 6 months when I moved here. So I started college very, very early on, and I met this guy in college pretty early, and so so Jason's there, and I was needing somebody. I was looking for a place where I belonged. I remember I mentioned I wasn't into like youth groups. Youth groups wasn't I liked them, but I never really felt like I belonged. And I felt like sometimes like I was kind of on the sidelines in the
Right.
youth group. Well, Mark and Bettina Jones invited me to come with them a couple times. And there was just something about the way that they interacted with us that I finally felt like I was comfortable. Like, okay, I can. And I finally kind of got over my homesickness, and they got us so involved. They would take us downtown preaching like twice a week. And of course, Mark Jones, he's, very, very, whatever he does it like 150%. He doesn't do anything 100%. It's 150, maybe 200%.
Yes.
So it got me distracted. So whenever I wasn't studying, I was with them, and I was distracted from like any homesickness, anything that I felt like I was missing out on. And I was in ministry, which is where I wanted to be, because that was my whole life. My whole life was in ministry. So when I got to be with Mark and Bettina Jones, I was in ministry, and so Jason had also. So that's where his comfort zone was too. At that time, he was very, very comfortable with Mark and Bettina Jones, and. Should we say who Mark and Bettina Jones are?
No, they're just members in the church.
Right.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, sorry. And so we ended up, so it progressed to where, they asked me, hey, Jason was 16, I think, at the time, and he didn't have a car yet. So they would ask me, hey, would you mind dropping Jason off? And it became a regular thing where I would just take him home because he was on my way home anyway.
Right.
He was on the direction towards my grandma's house. So I dropped him off at home, and without realizing it, these drives, we were talking. And he was 16. To me, he was a kid.
How old were you? You were 18.
I was in college,
Oh.
excuse me. I was way too sophisticated. No, I think I had just turned 19. Yeah, so I was.
So you were you're 3 years older?
2 years.
2
He was
years.
he turns, so his birthday's in March and I'm in January.
That's interesting how, when you're 40, 2 years is nothing, but when you're 18, 2 years is a lot. It's the
yes.
difference between legal and illegal.
Yes.
Just so you
Yes.
know, okay?
Thanks for clarifying that. So he never, when we talked about this, he's like, I never even thought of you. Because during these drives where I would take him home, we were just talking. There was not, but what we were doing was we were actually talking about values. And we didn't even notice it. So, every week I was learning more and more about him, and he was learning more and more about me. And before we know it, 1.5 years have passed, and we've learned so much about each other. And it wasn't until, we were downtown with Mark and Bettina again. It was 1.5 years later. And we were talking to this lady, and she said something about, she asked if Mark and Bettina were together. And then she asked if me and this young man were together. And I was like, no, we're not together. But until that moment, the idea of us being together had never crossed my mind.
Mm.
And when I started thinking about it, I was like, why have I never thought about that before? And after that, I was like, okay, I like this guy.
And but was he legal at that time?
Yes.
I just want to get that out of the way.
Then it was. I think he was he had just turned 18. He had just turned 18.
So you waited till he was barely legal. That's barely legal.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
been a theme throughout this whole podcast.
Yeah.
Just everything's
Legal.
Just,
Oh, she's very concerned about what's legal. She's like, he's legal. When your parents asked him, so what's he like? And the first thing,
He's
legal.
legal.
He's legal. Barely legal.
He just turned 18, so we're good, Mom. I promise. But yeah, so that was so I got to really for the first time think about him.
Has he told you when he was interested?
Kind of happened at the same time. It was
Okay.
really bizarre because and then so that day happened, and then like a week later it was really strange how it kind of happened all at the same time. So like for 1.5 years nobody says anything to us, and then this lady downtown says something to me, and then Stephen Kincaid, who's also my second cousin, he's over at Mima's house. I don't even know why he was over at Mima's house. We're just talking, and he's like, so you think about any of the young men in our church? And he starts talking to me about the young men in the church, and I'm like, okay, this is weird, but sure, I'll bite. So we're talking. He's like, Adam Newman. I'm like, yeah, he's nice, but he's never showed any interest, so I'm not gonna And then he's like, what about Jason? I'm like, why did you? And I'm in my mind, I'm like, why did you just say Jason? Because I'm like, I had just gotten interested in Jason, and so that was. So it was my experience with finding somebody was very non-conventional.
Right.
Which is most of my life. My life is non-conventional. So, but yeah, that was how it happened. Was just very, very, he happened to be a kid that needed a ride home, and and I drove him home for 1.5 years for however long it took for him to get a car, and yeah.
So any of you young ladies who are looking for husbands, start looking for 14-year-olds to drive around. I don't think that's good. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Bad idea.
But forget I said that.
Don't listen to
Don't
Michael.
go around picking up people, driving them home. That's not, no, don't do that.
You want to play the long game.
Play the long game.
So, what?
You're really young.
Because I did give it some thought. Whenever I stopped to think about, why Jason stuck out to me and why he was different from everybody else, was because I had first of all the experience with the guy I met in college, and he was, like I said, everything that most of what I found out about him was stuff that I didn't want in a man, stuff that I didn't want in a husband, and Jason was opposite of everything. The young man that I met in college was he would come off as arrogant, and he would come off as just very so he was so insecure. He'd come off as boisterous and pushing himself onto people and forcing himself into the limelight. And there's nothing like that about Jason. He is humble. He is gracious, and he doesn't demand attention. And so there was everything about Jason. And when Jason spoke, he spoke things that mattered, that were important. And he didn't speak a whole lot, but when he spoke, it mattered, and it was something that was important to him. And that's what I loved about him. Was like he never forced himself upon anybody. He never demanded attention. He never demanded that he be important to you. It was just he was very, very gracious about everything, and I loved that. I loved that I didn't have to. He was just very different from what I had already seen in some of the young men that I was around, and I loved that. And then the stuff that were important to him were important to me. The values that he had were the values that I had. Being a stay-at-home mom, having kids. I was not going to marry anybody that did not want kids.
And so he wanted kids. You guys had the same view on that?
Yes, I wanted 10.
Oh, wow.
And he talked me down to 8, and we ended up going, halfway.
You said 4 was enough?
Well, the doctors forced us to 4,
right.
Basically, because I had all C-sections.
Oh,
I would have gone to 6. That's where I was going to go to. I wanted 6 is what I wanted. But yeah, the doctors were like, what if this happens? There's like hemorrhaging risks. A lot of not a lot. The chances of hemorrhaging is actually really small, but we took that as like, look, we're willing to take that chance, and we decided not to.
Yeah, there's a time when you gotta put aside things you want for what makes more sense.
And he said, I'd rather have you around for the 4 kids that we have. So I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I put that aside, and we love it. Being a mom has been the best thing ever, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So yeah, the values that Jason that I discovered that he had were exactly what I wanted. And anything that because the main values that we shared, because those were in alignment, I could handle any of the little things that came up that weren't, because there's always going to be little things that you don't agree on or that you're different on. Like he and our personalities are very different. I'm very alive, I'm very bubbly, I'm very social, and he's not.
He's more of an introvert.
He's more of an introvert. So he's happy at home. I want to get out. Like, let's go someplace. Let's go visit with these people. And he likes having people. He loves being around people. It's just it has to be it has to be spaced out. So I'm like I'm spontaneous. I'm like, let's do this, and he likes to plan things out a little bit more. So but the stuff that's important, those are in alignment. We know that. And that's what.
See, that's what I think that people need to realize. Young people, is the importance that you have to get. I think too many young people are looking at the wrong things,
yes,
looking for commonality in the wrong places, right? They're looking to have things in common of what restaurant they like, or
adventure,
or where they want to go visit, right? What adventure they might want to have, and it's the wrong points of commonality.
Exactly.
And it doesn't make for successful marriage.
No, it doesn't. No, I agree entirely, because those are if you can both enjoy traveling, but if you disagree on whether or not you both want kids, then what are you doing?
Right.
If you can't agree on whether or not you're going to have a kid or not, like, great, so you're going to travel the world, but then you argue every night about whether or not you want a child.
Right, because most of the things that people look for commonality on are things that actually, if you just look at it mathematically, they take up a very small portion of your life. Like if you say, like people say, we want to travel. How much actual minutes of your life are you going to spend traveling? Very few.
Yes.
I mean, when you put it in, you're going to come home and walk through the front door many, many, many times more minutes of your life than you're going to go to some foreign country together. So walking in the front door and saying hi to your spouse, and that interaction, which seems like nothing, when you add that up, you're going to do that for what would amount to years of your life, and you're going to travel for what will amount to weeks of your life. Very huge difference, and that's just one thing. You know, like you say, discussing children and how you're going to raise your children. That's going to be years of actual time if you add it all up. All of these things, going to church or whatever, all of these things add up to years and years of time stacked together. And people wonder why. They're like, well, I don't understand why we can't get the small things right when we have the big things in common. And it's because they're not the big things. They're backwards.
Yes, they're backwards. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how I felt about it. You know, there's just...
Yeah, and so kids, you know, young people looking for a meaningful relationship, a meaningful marriage, have got to get their value system turned around the right way, where they realize that it's about having things in common that are the bigger things, and you can differ on the other things. I mean, me and Terry don't agree on any of the things that people look for commonality.
Yeah.
She always wants to go places. I don't want to go anywhere. That's what they've invented the internet for. If you want to see London, you can see all of London from your home. You don't need to go anywhere.
Yes.
Certainly don't need to smell the place. And so I'm more than happy staying home. You know, we just have everything she likes to do, I don't like to do. Everything we have very little of those things in common.
Yes, exactly. Like our movie preferences for Jason and I are completely different.
Yes.
I love like Jane Eyre and these like very in dialogue involved movies, and Jason loves these like
John Wick.
And these in movies like where people find themselves like isolated or abandoned or
like
stranded in a desert with like nothing but a bunch of garbage to build a plane out of. I'm like, why? Why do we have to watch? I'll watch it with him. I will. But then I'm like, okay, honey, you're going to watch one of mine now. And he's like, okay, I'll do it for you. We have our
We just bought another TV. She watches her movie. I watch my movie.
Yeah. So we have but where it counts, where it matters, he and I are on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to the kids, when it comes to how we're going to handle our finances, when it comes to how we're you know, planning for the future, those things are there. And those things are you know, we are already on the same page on those.
And this is why it's important to find your spouse in a well, for us, for Christians, it's in church, but it's in a environment where those things are, I'll say, preach, where those things are promoted, values are promoted. Because I mean, this is for Christians. We see it very strictly within. It's about church and Christ and the gospel, and all our values. All our values tumbled down from that point, right? But even if we're not speaking it from a Christian perspective, you have to going and finding a spouse or a date or anyone you are interested in any meaningful way, at somewhere where it's promoting minutia as the important thing, like a club or a disco or dancing, or I'm not even speaking against those things. I'm just saying, trying to find a spouse or at your workplace, this is the wrong place to find a meaningful relationship.
Well,
Go ahead.
They also minimize it because they reduce it to a experience. Like if you're with this person and he makes you laugh, or you have a chemical reaction. It's like a chemical reaction now, right? Like, you know, if you have you'll have a connection. Sometimes, you know, you may share, like with Jason and I, like we shared values together. Like I don't remember ever really laughing when we were dating. When we were dating, we never had this I know some people do. Like some people have this like really great relationship with the person they're dating and end up marrying, and they have these like, we didn't get to that point until after we got married, where we would have really good, really fun times together. But while we were dating was very, you know, because the way he approached me, which was another reason why I really liked him, was because when he asked me to date him, he came to me and said, I like you, and I want to see if there's any reason why we shouldn't get married. So it was basically, he opened the door for, let's ask each other hard questions, and let's find out if there's any values that we disagree on that are basically deal breakers. And that's how he approached me. And so our dating relationship was more of a, let's ask each other. So we asked hard questions. We had very deep conversations. We were not like looking for fun. It wasn't fun. I'm not going to say it wasn't fun. It was fun. We had a great time, but it wasn't the kind of fun that most people are looking for when they're looking for a spouse.
Right.
They're looking for someone that they have a great time with. Well, it's not necessarily, like, believe it or not, like being married isn't fun all the time. Yes, there are moments of fun, but usually it's getting up in the morning and trying to find the coffee and trying to get out the door to get to work. And sometimes those are grumpy moments. Mm-hmm. And, you have to find a way to be okay with that person when they're at their worst. Yeah, life can, you have your date nights when those are fun, but then you have life. Mm-hmm. And most people aren't looking for somebody that they can do life with. They're looking for somebody they can have fun with. And I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't looking for someone I was looking for somebody I could do both with. Like somebody that I could have a really great life with, and even if I disagreed with him, I could respect him. And that's what I was looking for.
James Tour says, I was just listening to, or re-listening to one of his lectures. I don't know if you know who James Tour is.
I've never heard of him.
James Tour is a organic chemist and a nanotechnology creator. So he creates nano machines, which are, so like he makes these little cars out of nano cars.
Okay.
So you can park 30,000 of them on a human hair, on the width of a human hair.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing ever. He's a Christian besides, but he's like one of the leading nanotechnology scientists in the world, and he's this devout Christian. So I love the guy. And you can find him on YouTube. You just look up James Tour. He has a bunch of lectures, and he'll be lecturing in like college universities, and because he works at Rice, he's a professor at Rice University, but he lectures all over because he's an authority on this on this subject. But his lectures are about Christ and the gospel and how he got saved, and it's very, very intriguing.
That sounds interesting.
It is. He's a great guy. Anyways, I was listening to one of his lectures, and he says he was talking about when he was young, he had gotten saved. When he got saved, like when he was like 18 or 19, and so he wanted to get married. And he says the problem is that, and what you go into what you were saying, he says the problem is that what the chemistry that people talk about, because he's a chemist, right? So he says the chemistry that people say they have, that's these small molecules in your body that are speaking to you. Don't listen to the small molecules, he says. You need to ask God to give you the right spouse. Because if you listen to the chemistry, you're just listening to these small molecules that are telling you what to do. Yes. Which is the way, and you have to listen to how he says it, because the way he says it is basically it gives you the creepy feeling that you're listening to voices. But that's what you're doing, he says, because he says, I'm a chemist. I know how this works. Yes. And you have these small molecules, and they're talking to you. Don't listen to the small molecules. Listen to God.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point, I'd always been raised, that happiness or the whatever this like happiness is fleeting. Like you never, it's a pursuit of happiness. The way you're always chasing it. And so you don't marry somebody just because they make you happy or they make you laugh, because believe it or not, that may not last. Like find somebody that you can be comfortable with in the hard times. That you can trust in those times when things aren't happy, that you can lean on, and that's what I was looking for. Because the little thing, the things that people were, oh, he makes me happy. They just didn't. I could see the shallowness of those things, and I didn't want that. I wanted something that was more long term. That. Even when the smiles and the laughter is gone, that if things get hard, that's what counts.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So and Jason's obviously he's a very steady kind of guy, very steady, and that was what I loved about him.
Well, that's great. Well, I think that's a good place to stop and leave it there. I think
All right.
that's,
Wow, that's it?
That's 2 hours.
That's 2 hours. All right.
Right.
Cool.
Very good. Well, that was very interesting, and I'm very thankful. I don't know if I didn't tell you this because I didn't want to put any pressure on you. Okay. But when you were asking me when you got here in the green room. This is the green room too, by the way.
Okay.
We don't actually have a real green room. This is the green room, the brown room. This is all the rooms, and that's my yacht. Right but anyways, you were asking me about when I wanted to do this. I was telling you I've been wanting to do like a podcast or something like this for a very, very long time. But when we first started really thinking, let's do it like a podcast for the church and do it this way, you were actually the first person I ever thought about having on.
Oh my goodness.
This was before I'd done anything. And I was thinking, I wanted to just, because I knew I'd never get anyone to come on to talk to me who was like interesting. I'm joking. No, I knew it's like, I'm not going to get celebrities to come talk to me, obviously. But I thought I would like to do one. I just have just normal, everyday people, church people come in and talk. Because I think that almost, I would say everybody, but I don't want to get my tail in the door. So almost everybody has a very interesting story to tell. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, man, I should have Missy on. That would be interesting. And so you were my number one guest. You're that whale that I've been going after and finally got you to come on. And it took some convincing too.
It did. Yes.
It did.
Yes.
I'm glad you did.
I am glad I came on too. It was fun. Had a good time.
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me.
All right. And next week we're going to be here with George Hernandez of Grupo Imperio.
Yeah, local celebrity.
I got a local celebrity
look at
come on. He's the lead singer and the keyboard, right? What do they call him? The teclado.
Yeah,
He's the keyboard player for Grupo Imperio, which is a local band that plays music here in town. And then he also works for me. So
you made it. You did it.
I did. So I basically said, if you don't come on my podcast, I'll fire you. So this is going to be a very interesting podcast. No, he's worked for me for a long time, and we've been friends for a long time. And so he's coming on next Saturday.
Yay.
George Hernandez from Grupo Imperio. We're going to have him on. And then the following week we won't have a live show. I did an interview with one of the producers from the show The Chosen, and we will be airing that in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, we will air the interview that we had with the producer one of the producers from The Chosen. Dallas Jenkins was not available at this time because he's in the middle of getting ready for filming season 2. But one of the producers came on the show, and so we had a really, really, what I thought was a great conversation. He was a great guy, really, really interesting fellow, and talked a lot about the show. And of course, most of you that watch this show know I'm a huge, huge fan of The Chosen. Huge fan of The Chosen. And so I got a chance to talk to them. So we'll be airing that in 2 weeks. Next week with George Hernandez. And I guess that's it. So have a great day. Missy, thank you again for coming in. And we will see you next